All right, and we are back here on the GSMC football podcast. And for the third part of the show, we're going to now get into talking about the Steelers and their win over the Browns. And there was no snow for this game. It was actually a sunny day. And, before the game, George Pickens got ruled out. I believe it was a hamstring injury. So I thought the Steelers were going to struggle a little bit. I keep thinking that the Steelers offense is going to have a dud of a game these last couple weeks, but they don't. They've been playing well. Their offense has really been playing well, and that is a credit to Russell Wilson, because myself and many others just didn't think Russell Wilson was going to play well with the Steelers. Now, I thought he would be okay. I think he's definitely been better than okay. I'm not going to say he's been elite, but he has really played well, and he has surprised me. But you know what? He's got a team that believes in him. This is a good spot for him. And, the Steelers with their defense, and Chris Boswell is having an unbelievable season, and they have a good running game. Both running backs are healthy. This is a dangerous team. This team could beat anybody. And, I hope this is the year that, they could take that next step, win a playoff game, maybe go deep into the playoffs, because you know what? They can beat everybody or anybody. They can also lose to anybody, but I don't know. You know what? They're playing well. Now, against the Browns, Jameis had his typical Jameis game where he made some plays. He had that nice touchdown pass to Jerry Jeudy early on in the game, but then, he throws an interception on a screen pass, and then he throws another interception where he just overthrows the receiver. That's what Jameis does. But you know what? Right now, he gives the Browns the best chance to win. And there was some controversy that maybe, he might not start, because it didn't seem like Kevin Stefanski was committing to him after the game against the Steelers. But he is going to start against the Chiefs, and it seems like he's going to just be the starter for the rest of the year, which I think that's how it should be. The Browns, they got nothing to play for. Their season's over. Just let him finish out the season, and then, then you got some decisions you got to make on what you're going to do next year, because, you're still stuck with the Deshaun Watson contract. And it's just been a disappointing year for the Browns. It really has. And Nick Chubb had another quiet game. He really didn't do much. He did have one decent run at one point, but again, it's kind of been more of the same. He really has not been a factor in this Browns offense since coming back. And I guess, it does make sense. He's coming off of a significant knee injury. So they don't want to drive him into the ground. And yeah, he had a 19-yard run in this game, but other than that, it's been a struggle for him. But you know what? Jerry Jeudy looks good. That trade with the Broncos actually looks good right now, because he's been solid for them this year. He's going to finish with over 1,000 yards on the season. Has 4 touchdowns on the year. So, you got a player with him. And David Njoku, he's been good with Jameis this year. You hope that with better quarterback play, he can have a big year next year as well. He's been a good player for them. Elijah Moore's been okay at times this year. So, the Browns got things that they could build on. Of course, you still got, that defense as well with Myles Garrett and also Denzel Ward. They got some good players over there. It's just been a disappointing year for them. It really has. But going back to the Steelers, though, listen, Russell Wilson right now, 12 touchdowns to 3 picks since he's taken over as the starting quarterback. I mean, Nate Burleson said it. He's got his swag back. And looks like he does. I mean, he didn't throw for a ton of yards in this game. Didn't really have to. I mean, the Steelers were in control for pretty much the whole game. At one point, you thought maybe the Browns were going to climb back into it, because Cordero Patterson had a fumble late in the game, but the Browns didn't do anything with the ball. But the Steelers, they were in control. You had Van Jefferson score a touchdown in this game. Pat Freiermuth, he's been playing well. He's been getting the ball more these last few weeks. He has 2 touchdowns in 2 straight games, because he was quiet for a while. But now him and Russell Wilson seem to start getting on the same page. So that's a big target that you want to get going in this offense. Mike Williams had a nice catch down the sidelines. Scotty Miller had a few catches in this game for 38 yards. Like I said, Van Jefferson had a touchdown. Steelers defense had 3 sacks on the day. A couple of interceptions, like I said, one by James Pierre, and the other by defensive lineman Keanu Benton. So, yeah, and Chris Boswell, 3 for 3 on extra points, 2 for 2 on field goals. He has been unbelievable this year. And, the Bills lost. Steelers right now are tied for that number 2 seed. I don't know if they're going to get it, but right now, you're 2 games up on the Ravens, and you're tied with the Bills for the number 2 seed. So right now, playoffs started today. The Steelers would be hosting a playoff game. And look, I like their chances right now to win the division, at least be able to host a playoff game, and maybe you win that playoff game. Now, the Steelers would be going up against 3 teams that they've already played this year, and they've beaten all of them. They beat the Ravens, they beat the Chargers, and they beat the Broncos. Now, the Broncos have been playing better. The Chargers are a little banged up. Once they get some of their guys back, and, Justin Herbert's not going to be, Herbert got banged up on Sunday, and he got banged up in the game against the Steelers earlier this year. But you would deal with them a second time, and then you're going to deal with the Ravens possibly for a third time. So those are 3 tough games. Those are 3 tough opponents, I should say, if that's what ends up happening. But like I said, I think the Steelers could beat anybody. If the defense plays well and Russell Wilson makes plays and, you get George Pickens back, of course, and, you rely on the running game as well, the Steelers can play any game to how they want. Because I still think, though, if you got to get into a shootout, like if they have to go to Buffalo at some point in the playoffs, or, if they have to go to Kansas. Well, Kansas City's a little different because their offense has been struggling. But again, it's the playoffs. Kansas City's a different team in the playoffs. If they have to get into a shootout, I don't think they're going to be able to keep up. Now, they got into a shootout with the Bengals, but the Bengals don't have a good defense. What happens now if you go to Buffalo? Well, their defense just got shredded by the Rams. And you got to keep pace with Josh Allen in that stadium. It's going to be tough. That's why I think it's very important for a lot of these teams that they get home playoff games. And, the Chiefs are still somewhat in striking distance here for that number 1 seed. I mean, the Steelers play them one more time. Well, the Steelers play them, I shouldn't say one more time, but they do play them before the season ends. They play them towards the end of the month here. We'll see how that game goes. Steelers got tough games, though. They got the Ravens, the Eagles, and the Chiefs the next 3 weeks. And then you got the Bengals to finish off the year. And who knows what the Bengals will be playing for. Maybe they're still, alive for a playoff spot. But they finished with more wins than I thought they were going to. I said they were going to finish with 9 wins. Again, it's kind of similar to the Vikings, where I didn't know how the quarterback play was going to be. Because I knew, like the Vikings, now I think the Vikings roster might be, I guess when it comes to the skill position players on offense, I'd probably, I would say the Vikings are better in that department. But both teams have good rosters. And I think it really just all comes down to the quarterback play. And the quarterback play for both teams, now Sam Darnold has been better than Russell Wilson and Justin Fields, but still, the quarterback play for both teams has really made a difference. And that's why they're in the positions that they're in right now. Now, for the Vikings, they're playing in the NFC North, so they're a wild card team right now. But for the Steelers, they played so well that they are the number 1 team in their division. And they are 2 games up on the Ravens, who I said was going to win the division going into the season. Quarterback play has made the difference for these teams. And, we'll see what happens when they make the playoffs. But, give the Steelers credit. Russell Wilson, like I said earlier, he has surprised me as well as other people as to how well he has played. And Mike Tomlin, again, I've brought this up a million times now. A lot of people questioned the switch when they went to Russell Wilson. And they told Justin Fields to take a seat. Look at how that's panned out. Russell Wilson, though, he's a better passer than Justin Fields. Now, when it comes to running the football, you would probably lean towards Justin Fields. But to play the quarterback position, you got to be able to be a good thrower of the football. And, Russell Wilson still has the arm talent. He doesn't really extend the plays, like he used to. You don't see a lot of those, like that play against the Cardinals many years ago. The NFC Championship game against the Niners or against the Packers, extending the play. You're not going to see that version of Russell Wilson. But this version of Russell Wilson that we got right now, he's playing the quarterback position well. And the Steelers right now, they do have a complete team that is going to be very dangerous in the playoffs. But like I said, they could beat anybody, but they could also lose to anybody. If the offense has an off game, unless T.J.Watt takes over the game and the defense gets some turnovers, it's going to be tough. And we saw that, against the Browns a couple weeks ago where the offense just got off to a slow start. But then they woke up in the second half when the weather got bad. But it was kind of too little too late. I mean, they had an opportunity to win the game, and there were some questionable coaching decisions at the end. But, had they put together a full game there, they'd be 11-2. I still don't know how they lost to the Cowboys. If you look at all their losses, their 3 losses. They lost to the Colts by 3. They lost to the Cowboys, I think, by 3. And then they lost to the Browns by a touchdown. Or by 5 points, whatever it was. All their losses have been one-score games. So this team does not get blown out. Now, they play the Eagles this week. And we're going to talk about the Eagles in the next segment. I give them a good chance to win that game. I really do. Because they have a really good... the Eagles have a good defense, but the Steelers have a good defense. And, for the Eagles, we'll talk about them. Passing game has a little bit of issues. And if the Steelers can slow down Saquon Barkley and Russell Wilson and that offense can move the ball a little bit, I like the Steelers' chances to win that game. I do. So we'll talk about that, though, later this week because that's going to be one of the games that I preview because that is a big matchup this week. But we will talk about the Eagles in the next segment. But let me know what you guys think, though, about this game. What were your takeaways from it? Again, the Steelers 10-3. Didn't think they'd be 10-3 at this point. I had them finishing with 9 wins on the year. So give them credit. Mike Tomlin and that team are looking good right now. 2 games up on the Ravens in the AFC North. So we are going to take our next break. And then when we come back, we will talk about the Eagles-Panthers game and how that ended up being a close game. We'll talk about that when we come back from our next break. So with that being said, stick around, and we'll be right back here on the GSMC Football Podcast.